Hilchos Geirushin Perek Shmini, the laws of divorce, chapter 8. Today and tomorrow, we're going to learn about Tnaim, conditions on the divorce. Can you give a divorce with a condition? And on the screen, we have a slide that we had in the laws of marriage. When it came to making a marriage on condition, we saw there's 4 things that have to exist in order to make a condition valid. Number 1, times 2. You have to use 2 expressions. You have to say, if you do this, then it's a good marriage. If you don't do this, it's not a good marriage. Or same with the divorce. If you do this, the divorce is effective. If not, it's not. In the double expression, the yes has to be before the no. It means you have to say, if you do this, yes, divorce. If you don't do this, no divorce. You can't say the opposite. You can't say, if you don't do this, no divorce. If you do this, then divorce. Thirdly, you have to make the condition before you do the action. That means you have to say what the condition is, then give the ring or give the divorce. If you give the divorce first, she's already divorced. And fourthly, it has to be a condition that's possible. Not asking somebody to climb to the heavens. It has to be a condition possible for it to fulfill. Now, we're going to see it's going to get more complicated when it comes to divorce because there's a special pasuk by divorce which says, V'katav la sefer kritut. You have to write for her a book or a document that's going to cut her off completely. Which means that when you give a divorce, that has to be the cutoff between you and her completely. Seemingly, if you make a condition, you're still holding on to her. Right? You're telling her this is the divorce only if so and so. That means that even after she gets the divorce, you're still keeping some part of her. There's not a full cutoff. So the Rambam will explain how we juggle the two, how you make both a proper condition and that the marriage is still cut off in a way that the divorce is a good divorce. So that's where we're heading for today and tomorrow. It says the Rambam halacha aleph hamegarish al tanai, somebody who divorces his wife on condition. Im niskayim hatanai harezu megureshes. If the condition is fulfilled, she's divorced. V'im lo niskayim hatanai, if the condition is not fulfilled, eino megureshes, she's not divorced. Ukvar beyarnu beperek shishim hilchos ishus. We already explained in chapter 6 of the laws of marriage, mishpetei hatanoim kulam, all the laws about conditions. V'sham nisbayer, and over there we explained shahamegarish al tanai, that when you give a divorce on condition, when does the divorce begin? Kishiyiskayim hatanai. When the condition is fulfilled, tiya megureshes b'shah sheyiskayim. She will be divorced at the moment that the condition is fulfilled. Loi b'shas nesinas haget liyada, not originally when you gave her the divorce. Wow. So pay attention.
You don't have to give her the divorce as long as it is.
No, you have to give her the divorce at the time, but it only goes into effect when the condition is fulfilled. Right? So look at this. This chart is going to be very helpful because we're about to learn the laws for a regular condition, and then there's the laws if you say a condition in a different language. What's called almanat or me'achshav. We'll soon see what that means. But there's going to be 4 differences between these 2 types of conditions. So first, we're talking about a regular condition. Regular condition, the divorce goes into effect when the condition is fulfilled. Lefichach, therefore, because the divorce is only going to become a divorce later, yesh labal levatel haget, oy lehoisif al tanoi, oy lehasnes al tanai acher. The husband can cancel the divorce. He can add new conditions, or add to his condition, to his original condition. Kol zman shalei niskayim atanai harishain. So long as the original condition wasn't fulfilled. Afal pisha higia haget liyada, even if she's holding the divorce, because the divorce is only going to go into effect later. So during the whole time between the giving of the divorce and the fulfillment of the original condition, you see over here, can he cancel? Can he add new conditions? Yes, he can in this case because the divorce is waiting for the original condition to be fulfilled. Another result of this, if the husband dies, or the divorce gets lost, or the divorce gets burnt, before she has a chance to fulfill the condition, eino megureshes, she's also not divorced, because from the time that she gets the divorce till the time that the condition is fulfilled, she's still not divorced. So if the husband dies in the meantime, the marriage is over because he died, or the get is over because it got lost. That's the third thing over here. Husband died, or divorce got lost or burnt, she's not divorced, because the marriage has been closed in another way, or it's been reopened. A fourth result is the question of, can the woman get remarried before the condition is fulfilled? So here the Rambam says, initially, she should not get remarried till she fulfills the condition and completely cuts off the previous marriage. However, here the Rambam says something very unusual that many people don't agree with, but he says if she does get married, she doesn't have to leave the marriage. Why?
She doesn't have
No. if she gets remarried, even though she didn't fulfill the condition which made the first divorce valid, she's still kind of in limbo, it's okay. Why? Because she can still fulfill the condition later. And then retroactively it will be revealed that the original divorce was good. Unless it's now impossible to fulfill the condition, and then in which case the condition is indeed cancelled. Yeah, example that would be, a guy says, here's your divorce, and you're only going to be divorced if you, let's say, give that friend of yours a massage. Okay, let's just say, for example. All right? Now the friend dies. She can no longer fulfill the condition. There's no way. There's no possibility anymore. But if all she says is, here's your divorce on condition that you give me $200, okay, so even if she didn't do it right now, but she can do it later. So if she gets married in the interim, it's okay. Now, in that chapter, in chapter 6 of the Laws of Marriage, we also explained She'im Amar La, that if a person formulates the condition in a different way, classically the condition is done with the words im. If you do this, good divorce. If you don't do that, bad divorce. But what if he says a different language? He says, Ariat megureshes me achshav, oy me hayoim, al tanai kach v'kach. You're divorced right now. You're divorced today on condition that you do this and this. But he uses that word from now. Oisha amar la hariat megureshes al menas kach v'kach. Or he uses the Hebrew word al menas. Al menas means on condition, but it implies from now. You say you're divorced on condition that you do this. When she fulfills the condition, tia megureshes mishas nesinas haget liyada. She will be divorced retroactively from the moment that she got the divorce. That's over here. You see, al manas me'achshav, when is she divorced, goes into effect right away. You don't wait. I mean, of course, you have to wait till it's fulfilled to know that it worked. But when it works retroactively. Lefichach, therefore, let's go down the chain over here. Eina yachar levatel haget, v'loy lehoisif al tanoi, mishihigia haget liyada. You cannot cancel the divorce. You cannot add to your conditions once the woman is holding the divorce. Because technically, right now, she's already divorced if she'll fulfill the condition. Third thing, v'im avad, ay nisraf, afilu meis habal kedem sheyiskayim atanai. If the divorce gets lost, if it gets burnt, even if the husband dies, before she fulfills the condition, all she has to do is fulfill the condition after he dies. And she'll already be divorced retroactively back from the time when she got hold of the divorce. That's the third thing over here. Divorced if condition is fulfilled.
I still can't grasp the idea in marriage, not the massage.
No, I'm saying you can, because you can make any condition.
What a condition a man can give to a woman in the past for.
No, he can say whatever he wants. He can say you're only married if you dance on your head 10 times. Or if you do 14 jumping jacks. Conditions don't have to be reasonable.
No?
No, they have to just be fulfillable. You have to be able to fulfill them, but it doesn't have to be a reasonable thing. And the fourth thing is about getting remarried. In this case, she can actually go straight ahead and get remarried, even if she hasn't fulfilled the condition. We don't even have to worry that you're not going to fulfill it later. Since the condition was formulated with the words from now or on condition that, which means that it goes into effect right away, so we're not worried that she's not going to fulfill the condition and make the divorce not valid. Those are the two types of conditions that govern divorces. Halacha beis. Kol ha-megaresh al tanai. If you do choose to make your divorce hang on condition, bein sha'amar me'achshav, bein sha'amar im yiyeh ve'im lo yiyeh, however you formulated it, you use the words from now, you use the classic way, if this. Either way, in a certain way, you are already divorced. And therefore, you cannot go into seclusion with your wife as long as the condition wasn't fulfilled, unless there is at least one witness watching, because then you won't have relations, you won't resume the marriage. Even a slave or a maidservant can be that one witness, unless it's her personal maidservant or her young child, because a woman doesn't have embarrassment. She's not shy to engage in relations in front of her own maidservant or in front of her own son, so they won't be helpful. But any other witness, that's enough to be the stopper and allow for the husband and wife to be in seclusion. The hadavar yadua, it's well known, says the Rambam, if two people were watching, and she goes into seclusion to a room with her husband, Even if later she will fulfill the condition, she's only divorced out of doubt. Shema ba'ala ubatala get, because maybe when they were in that closed room, they had relations. He canceled the divorce. As will be explained in chapter 10, the Rambam says if a person has relations with a woman in general, if he has the possibility to make it kosher rather than keep it non-kosher, he would make it kosher. So if you have a woman that's divorced and you have relations with her, the non-kosher way would be to keep it just promiscuous. The kosher way would be to assume that you remarried her, you gave her another ring or something, and you made it okay. So when you go into a room, two people are watching, and you go into seclusion, the assumption has to be that you probably resumed the marriage. You had in mind to reconsecrate her with the relations, and that way made your relations kosher, because that's how a Jew is. And therefore, the whole divorce goes into question. Halacha Gimel, Ketzad Megaresh Adam al Tanai. What does it look like? How do you go about divorcing on condition? There's so many stages to a divorce. You give the instruction to write a divorce, you actually write it, do you put it in the document, do you say it when you hand it over? So the Rambam says it's only at the last step. Loisha Yoimar, Kisvu get liishti al Tanai zeh. It's not that he says to his agent or whoever, write a divorce for my wife on this condition. Or kisvu utnula al Tanai, or write it and give it to her on this condition. Needless to say, you should never write into the document itself al Tanai zeh Geirushin plenius that this person only divorced his wife on condition. You don't put it into the document, you don't say it before. So what do you do? How does it work to divorce on condition? You first give the instruction to the scribe to write the divorce, the witnesses to sign the divorce. The kaisvin get kosher below shum tanai ba'ilam, write a completely kosher get with no conditions. The acharkach, afterwards when it's ready to go, you take the divorce document, noisin la haget, you give her the divorce, v'oimer la, and you tell her, harei ze gitech, or hareat migureshes bazeh, almanas kach v'kach. This is your divorce, or you are divorced with this, on condition that such and such. Or yomer lahem, or you tell the witnesses or the agent, Tanula get zeh almanas kach v'kach, give her this divorce, please, on this condition. But you only enunciate the condition once the complete divorce has been written in a kosher way. What if you didn't listen? Halacha Daled, Kosav Atnai Baget, Achar Shegomar, Lichtov Teiref Haget. What if you wrote the what if you wrote the condition into the divorce? So it depends where you wrote it. Let's remember, from this is a divorce document, all the highlighted lines are what's called the Teiref, the essential parts of the get. The date, the name of the man, the name of the woman, and that essential line that says you are permitted to marry everybody. So if he writes all of the Teiref, all of the essential parts, and at the bottom, let's say, he adds in the condition. Hareze get kosher, that's actually a kosher divorce. You shouldn't have done it, but it's a kosher divorce. Bein shekosvei kaidim chasim asa'edim, bein shekosvei la'achar chasim asa'edim, whether you wrote it over here, before the witnesses, or on the bottom, after the witnesses. But the point is, you put it in after you wrote down the essential part of the get. Avolim kosvei kaidim teiref haget, but if you wrote the condition before the essential part of the get, afilu kosav almanas kach v'kach, even if you wrote the word almanas, which implies that the divorce is happening right away, harei fake Geirushin, the divorce, the entire divorce, is in doubt. Shaharei nishar le'ischus begufei shel get. Here the Rambam first introduces the problem that I mentioned before. By putting a condition into the divorce, you're still holding on to your wife in some way. That violates this principle of Sefer Krisus, has to be a cutoff completely. By the way, the same would be true, even if you made a condition verbally. You didn't put in the document, but before the actual essential part of the divorce was written, you verbalized a condition, you've thrown the whole divorce into doubt. Because again, you're still holding on to your wife in some way. Halacha hey, now the Rambam will actually visualize many conditions that can work or that can't work. A man divorces his wife and he makes a condition, in a good way. It's after the essential portion is written, whether it's in writing or verbally. And he tells her the following. You can marry anybody except for that guy. And he names one guy. Or you're only allowed to get married to this guy. I'm sorry. Ella is another way of saying exception. Chutz mi'ish pleini or ella li'ish pleini. Both are the same point. You can marry anybody except for or aside for that one guy. And you give her the divorce with that condition in place. So the Rambam says, it depends who the guy is. If that man was an idol-worshipping Gentile, or he was a slave, or he was a man who she could never marry because she is forbidden to him on penalty of karet, of excision, the highest level prohibition. Like her father or her brother, or his father or his brother. Harei get kosher, it's a kosher get. Even though you made a condition that you said, you can get married to anybody besides for that guy, so in a way you're still holding on. But since that guy anyways you can never make a marriage with, so there's not really anything you're holding on to. But if the guy that he specifies is a person with whom she could establish a marriage bond, even though maybe it's somebody forbidden by the Torah, but not on the highest level, only forbidden on penalty of a negative prohibition. Even if he's a child, ein get, the divorce is invalid. It's not a divorce. Shaharei shir baget ve'ein zeh krisus, because he has left over some portion in the divorce. He still holds jurisdiction over her. He says the reason she can't marry that guy is because of him. Ve'ein zeh krisus. Here's the word again. Cutting off. It's got to be cutting off. This is not cutting off. What if the guy that he names was the husband of her sister? Now there is a rule in the Torah that you cannot marry two sisters at once. However, if you marry to one sister and another sister and that sister dies, you can then marry that woman's sister. It actually happened in my family. I have a cousin who was married to a woman. She died young, left 6 children, and the sister stepped in. He married this, so that's allowed. Right now, in the lifetime of them both, it wouldn't be allowed. So you have like this. The guy divorces his wife. He says, you can never marry your sister's husband. Now, right now that's true, she cannot. But right now, he is forbidden on the highest level. But tomorrow, if the sister dies, she'll be permitted to him. So we don't know which side of the fence this falls on. Is this a prohibited marriage, in which case the divorce is good? Or it's a permitted marriage, in which case he's holding on to her, and it's no good. Yeah. So it's a doubtful divorce. We put it in doubt.
It happened to Arik Shaul.
What happened? He married 2 sisters?
He married sister died.
He married the other one. Okay. I didn't know that.
Started to help, and then
Before you know it, they're married.
Very incestuous.
Huh?
The whole thing's very...
Why? During the lifetime it's incestuous, but after the lifetime it's a beautiful thing. She steps in to take care of her sister's kids.
First cousin.
Huh? No, cousin is a different thing. Halacha vav, amar la, harei at muteres l'chol adam, chutz mimisha yivaled, she'enei ata ba'ilam. Interesting condition. He tells the woman, you can marry anybody, I'm divorcing you, you can marry anybody, except for anybody that will be born after today. That right now doesn't exist. Oy, chutz miznusayich. Or he says, you can marry anyone, except for being promiscuous. Kalemra, which means to say, Tia muteres lihinasi l'chol adam. I'm allowing you to marry anybody. But if you're going to be promiscuous, it'll be like committing adultery, as if you're a married woman. He says, you're allowed to marry anybody in the natural way, but the unnatural way, which means from behind, you're still forbidden. I'm still holding on to you. Or you're allowed to marry anybody besides for somebody who will consecrate you with a document. Right? We saw in the beginning of this book. You can marry a woman either by giving money, by giving a document, or by relations. So he means to say, I allow you to become consecrated with money or with relations. But if you're going to marry somebody with a document, you'll be like a married woman committing adultery.
why does he have to do that?
He wants to be a little ridiculous. Yeah, it's true. I don't know why. Or he says, I'm allowing you to marry anybody, but I still hold the rights of nullifying your vows. Which means to say, no right of marriage remains over me over you, except for nullifying your vows. You're going to be my wife with regards to nullifying vows. In the 6th book of the Rambam, we're going to learn about this. A whole section of laws that a father has rights over his daughter and a husband has rights over his wife to nullify her vows. So he wants to hold on to that right. Or he says, you're going to be my wife with regards to eating truma. Truma, of course, is the 2% of the crop given to a Kohen. A Kohen's wife can eat truma. A regular Israelite's wife cannot. So if this guy maintains rights over his wife, either she may be allowed or not allowed to eat truma. Or I want to hold on to you with regards to inheritance. If you die, I'm going to inherit you. So in all these cases, we're in doubt if it's a good divorce, because in a way, he did give her full permission, and in a way, he's still holding on to something very, very technical. So it wouldn't be kritut. Exactly. The question is if it wouldn't be a full cutoff. Halacha zayin amar la. If he tells his wife, harayat mutaras lechal adam chutz me Reuven v'Shimon. You are allowed to marry anybody except for two people, Reuven and Shimon. Now, of course, in that moment, that wouldn't be good. But then the chazar v'amar, then he tells her again, harayat mutaras l'Reuven v'Shimon. You're allowed to marry Reuven and Shimon. Harezu migureshes. By saying those words, he makes her divorced, shari bitul atanai, because he cancels the condition. Those same women who he originally said cannot marry, now he allows them to marry her, allows her to marry them. But what if he only says, Amar la harayat muteres l'Reuven? You're only allowed to marry Reuven. Harezu eina megureshes. She's still not divorced. Shari loy bitul tanoi shel Shimon, because he never canceled the condition about Shimon, so he's still holding on to her with that. Amar la. If he tells her harayat muteres l'Shimon, oy harayat muteres af l'Shimon, you can marry Shimon or you can even marry Shimon. Hareza sfei Geirushin, it's still a doubt. Shema lo hitira ela l'Shimon or Reuven be'isurei oimid. Maybe all he meant to say was you can marry Shimon. Reuven is still forbidden. V'zesha amar af l'Shimon. The fact that his wording was even Shimon even means even in addition to everybody else. Klemar l'chol adam af l'Shimon. To everybody, even Shimon. But Reuven he still didn't cancel. Oy shema hitira lakol, or maybe he did permit her to everybody. V'zesha amar af l'Shimon v'hu adin l'Reuven. And when he said even Shimon, he meant not only Reuven but even Shimon. Sheshimon sama chayal Reuven b'tanai, because Shimon and Reuven were juxtaposed in the condition. So we don't know which one he means, and therefore it's a doubtful divorce. Tes hisna aleh v'amar. If you made a condition on your wife and you said hayoim ein at ishti u'lemachar at ishti. Today you're not my wife, you're divorced. But tomorrow you're back to being my wife. Eina megureshes, not divorced. Even though today, in this moment, he did cut her off, but because he wants to pick it up again tomorrow, that's no good. This is actually why we write today in divorces, min hayoim hazeh ula olam. You're permitted from today on onwards. You can actually see it in the picture here, in the divorce. It says here, min yoima denan ula olam. From this day and forever. That's because of this. Because we want to make sure that whatever's happening today is going to last forever. Halacha yud harei gitech al menas. If a man tells a woman, this is your divorce on condition that you never again drink wine. Ein get, that's not a divorce. Shein zakrisos, you haven't cut her off. You're still holding a right over her. You're forcing her. The reason why she won't drink wine is because of you. But if he says, you cannot drink wine for the rest of my life, or for the rest of that guy's life, harei ze get, that's a divorce. Because between you and her, you've cut it off. And when that guy dies, or when he dies, no jurisdiction will be left over her. Yes, it's a long time, true, but it isn't forever. This is your divorce, but you cannot visit your father's house for 30 days. Harei ze get, that's a divorce. But if you said you can't go to your father's house ever, then you're holding her down. That's not a divorce. Because you didn't cut her off. Therefore, if somebody says, this is going to be your divorce on condition that you'll never again eat meat or never again drink wine. That's not a divorce because there isn't cutting off. You put a time limit on it, 30 days. That's a good divorce. Yud beis. This is your divorce on condition that you don't marry anybody. See, in the other case, he said you're allowed to marry everybody except for that guy. Here, he formulates it as a condition. He says, this is your divorce on condition that you won't marry somebody else. That specific guy. Ein get. That's not a good divorce. Why? It can be compared to what? Somebody tells her, that's basically telling her you cannot drink wine forever, you cannot go to your father's house forever, you cannot do anything for the rest of your life. You say you cannot marry that guy, you're basically holding on to her for the rest of her life, because she can never marry the guy. But if you tell the woman, this is your divorce on condition that you'll never marry that guy for 50 years, it's indeed a divorce. She cannot get married for that entire time. Yes, it's pretty unreasonable. Yes, the chances are that after 50 years, they're both going to be dead and they won't be able to get married. But it doesn't matter. You put a time limit on it. It's a good condition. If she does get married to that guy, the whole divorce is retroactively nullified, and she's like a married woman committing adultery. If she commits promiscuity with him, havlad kosher, bahaget kosher, the baby is kosher, and the divorce is kosher. Because the only problem, his wording was lo tinasi. You cannot go into a formal marriage with that woman, with that man. But if she went into a promiscuous relationship with him, that's okay. Yud Gimel, the opposite. This is your divorce, but you have to marry that guy. Im nisis loy hareze get. So by dry halachic law, if she gets married to him, good divorce. Kishar kalatnaim, like any other condition. Aval amru chachamim, but the sages said that unfortunately this woman, loy tinase loyla eise pleini v'leila acher. She shouldn't get married to that guy, nor to anybody else. She should not get married to that guy. People will think you're giving your wife as a gift. Here, this is your divorce. Only marry that guy. And then, of course, she cannot marry anybody else because the only way to make the divorce happen is if she fulfills the condition and marries that specific guy, which we're saying she cannot. However, if she transgressed the sage's condition and she indeed got married to that guy, no need to leave the marriage because she fulfilled the condition and it's okay. But if she marries somebody else before marrying that guy, even if she ends up marrying that guy, but she first marries somebody else, batel haget, the whole divorce is cancelled. The teitze, the havlad mamzer, she needs to exit the marriage. Any children born are illegitimate. Utzricha get misheni, and she also needs a divorce from the second guy because in a way the marriage has taken hold. So she's really, really stuck. Halacha yudalid hareze gitech v'haniyar sheli. This is your divorce, but the paper that it's written on is mine. You're holding on to the paper. It's not a divorce. Again, there's no cutoff, no krisus. If he says, no, here's your divorce, but you have to give me back the paper. That's a good divorce. In the moment, you made a full divorce, and later you're asking for it back. She should give it back. By the way, I told you this before. Today, we never let the woman hold the divorce. The court takes it back always.
Why would it like?
Huh?
Why would he want it?
Why would he want it?
Yeah.
Because then later she can bring it out and demand the ketubah money. So if he gets it back, she can never do that. So that's a way of holding her back from that. Tesvav. Chakak haget al tashel zav, if he engraved the divorce onto a golden plate. V'nosnei lava amarla, and he gives it to her and he says, listen, this is a one-stop shop. I don't want to hear from you again. Here's your divorce and your ketubah. I'm giving you gold. I'm paying you off. Kosher, it's kosher. We don't have to think that you can't serve two purposes at once. It's okay. If the plate is worth her ketubah promise, she has received it and it's good. If not, he should compensate, make up the difference, and it's also fine. Any time that a person makes a condition which is invalid, which cancels the divorce, like he says, you cannot eat meat ever, or you cannot drink wine ever, or you're allowed to marry anybody except for X, this guy, or he made any condition in the divorce before writing the essential part, which is also not allowed. Don't think that because you made an invalid condition, the whole thing is canceled. No. If it was written in the divorce and you erased it, and then you gave it to her, now you're kind of getting better. It's a doubtful divorce. It's not a canceled divorce. And if it was only a verbal condition, you just take it back and give her the divorce again with no condition or with a proper condition. And it's fine. In other words, you haven't invalidated the whole essential document just because you made a bad condition. Keitza, what does that look like practically? Yud Zayin. He gave a divorce to his wife and he said, you're divorced with this, you can marry anybody except for that guy, which is not allowed, right? the chazer v'nasnei la v'amar la, if you take it back from her, and you give it back to her, and you say, Harei at muteras l'chol adam, you are now allowed to marry anybody with no conditions. Or Harei zeh gitech, this is your divorce. Harei zum megurashas, that's a good divorce. You redo it. You can do a take two. It's okay. Mechein kol ka'etzebay, anything similar, same laws apply. Yudches hanoisen get li ishtei al t'nai shetitin le masayim zuz. A person gives a divorce to his wife on the condition that she should give him $200, 200 zuz. Then, while witnesses are watching, he says, you know what, I want to put another condition. You have to serve my father for 2 years. That's going to be your condition. So is it a money condition or is it a service condition? Which one is it? Says the Rambam, it's both. The later words didn't cancel the first words. It's like telling the woman, you choose. Either give me $200 or serve my father. Ratzas mishameshes, ratzas nesenes. If she wants, she can serve. If she wants, she can give. You can't combine half and half. You can't say, I'll give you $100 and I'll serve for 1 year. You gotta do either one fully. Avalim hisna aleh, shetitin le masayim zuz. V'chazar v'hisna b'fnei shnayim shetitin le shloish me'ezuz. But if you did first a condition for $200 and then you added a condition of $300, that's not two separate conditions. That's clearly adding to the first condition. He has canceled the condition of 200 and she must give 300 for the divorce to be valid. Anything similar, same thing. That if it looks like you're adding to the first condition, so you're adding. If you're adding a second condition, then she can choose which one she wants. Halacha yutes. Hisna aleha shetasa davar zeh stam. If he makes a condition, okay, this is your divorce on condition that, and he says something, but with no definition. So this is your divorce, let's say, provided that you sweep the floor. Okay? Sweep the floor today, sweep the floor tomorrow, how many times? So the Rambam says, that's like saying 1 day. Minimum is 1 day. Since she didn't say for how long she has to do it. Keitza, what does that look like? Amar la, if he tells the woman, this is your divorce on condition that you will do work with me. Or on condition that you will serve my father. On condition that you will nurse my son. If she does work or services the father for 1 day, or she nursed the son for 1 day during the regular nursing period, the first 2 years of life, during 24 months, it's a good get. Good, she fulfilled the condition. You didn't say how long it has to be. But if the entire possibility left the world, for example, the kid died or the father died, she can no longer do the nursing or the service, then of course the divorce is invalid because she has no way to fulfill the condition. Chaf amar la, if the man tells the woman, he gives a clear time frame. You should nurse my son for 2 years, service my father for 2 years. She must complete the entire time that he says, and only then is it a good divorce. But this time, if the father dies or the son dies during the time, or the father says, you know what, I don't want this woman to service me anymore. So here, there's actually more room to think that it's good, because the reason is she's doing what she can. She's servicing, she's nursing. They wanted to stop her, they died. Still says the Rambam, it's not a divorce. Bottom line, the divorce, the condition wasn't fulfilled. If there's anything like this, it's the same thing. Okay, this is kind of combining an action with a time frame. This is your divorce on condition that you give me $200 sometime between now and 30 days from now. If she gives it during the 30 days with his consent and his awareness, that she's divorced. If she gives it 1 day after 30, no divorce. She gave the money, has to be within the time frame. You missed the time frame, you missed the divorce. If she forces it down his throat in a moment when he doesn't want to take it, but she still gave it, get pasul ad shetitin midaitai. The disqualified get. She has to give it with his awareness and consent. Sometimes people want the money, but if you give it them in the wrong circumstances, they won't take it. He's in the middle of a party, he's in the middle of a meeting, he can't take the money now. But she just dumps it into his room. No, it's no good. She has to put it into his hand when he's aware and willing to receive it. If during the 30 days he tells the woman, you know what, I forgo the money, no need to give it to me, she's still not divorced, because the condition wasn't fulfilled. Also, if he dies during 30 days, bottom line, 30 days passed, she didn't give the money, she's not divorced. Amar lo, if he tells the woman, this is your divorce, on condition that you give me $200, but no time frame. Today, in 2 months, in 2 years, when does it work? And what if he dies before she has a chance to give it to him? She cannot say, you know what, I'll give it to his son, and that'll work. Because the condition was, you have to give it to me. That guy died. On the other hand, the divorce cannot be cancelled because there was no time frame. Therefore, even if the divorce was lost or ripped up before he died, she's still married to the guy. And the implication would be, if he dies childless, she has to do yibum, technically, but she cannot really do yibum because maybe she wasn't married. So she has to do chalitza. She must do the process of releasing her bonds from the dead husband's brother, which we're going to expand upon in the next set of laws, and that will allow her to marry a regular guy. This is your divorce, but you have to give me a certain article or a certain piece of clothing. And that utensil or that clothing was stolen or lost. There's no way to give it now. It's gone. Even if she pays him, compensates him $1,000 as the money of that piece of clothing or utensil, it's not a divorce. Till either she gives that utensil or that piece of clothing, or otherwise he cancels the condition.
If he agrees to get the thousands?
Yeah, if he agrees, that's fine. Yeah. A woman is divorced on condition, but it's still hanging in the balance. She hasn't yet fulfilled the condition. And in the meantime, somebody else comes and gives her a ring, consecrates her. So it kind of works backwards. If in the end she fulfills the condition, retroactively she's married to the second guy. But if she didn't fulfill the condition and that causes the divorce to be cancelled, she doesn't even need a divorce from a second guy. It's just totally cancelled. Because the whole marriage didn't take hold. She's a married woman. But if she not only gets consecrated, she actually gets married, and then the divorce is cancelled because she didn't fulfill the condition. She will also require to be divorced by a second man, as we've explained, because the marriage does take hold. And therefore she's stuck in both problems. She's problematic with the first guy and also has to have a divorce from the second guy.